Hello, folks. Welcome. It's another housecoat chat. This one is number 73. It is a beautiful, bright day outside, and I really want to be inside, but I'm here doing a show. Well, because I got to satisfy my ego. Yes, I do. I talk a lot, and I'm willing to talk some more. And yes, folks, I am back. Another housecoat chat. The dude in the housecoat, Justice Truth. My first name is Justin. That's all you kind of really need to know. The scone is lit, folks. Yes, if you caught the last episode, it is for the girl from Spain, the young girl from the Tumbler Ridge, Maya, still trying to live. And for anybody who's watching the show, that scone could be lit for you for whatever reason you may have as well. Blah, blah, blah. I'm not trying to I'm just trying to talk. Anyways, folks, I just want to chat about what's going on that has kind of blown up the so-called Canadian media landscape online, and including in the mainstream media, is the comments that Michael Ma, the guy who crossed the floor, the first person to go on a trip with Mark Carney to China, Michael Ma. Throw Ma from the train. Remember that movie? It was actually called Throw Mama from the Train. Well, I say we need to throw Ma from the House of Commons, folks. This is treacherous. This is unbelievable. In fact, if you remember, I said I have read books on China before the internet, on the rise of China and everything else like that. And I've been following China Uncensored and other shows that document what goes on in China without actually following the Chinese state media. So, that in retrospect, I just have to say I am actually blown away by Michael Ma's tone and accusations to a lady, and I'm not going to say her name, about she was in the committee meeting CPAC. It's been aired. She is an older woman with many years of experience studying China. She's older than me, so she probably knows more than me, but talks about the forced labor camps in China. And Michael Ma's like, have you personally seen it? And she's like, well, I work closely with the Human Rights Commission, and we've documented all these cases. And yes, she's been to China, and I've seen these, and I've seen the whistleblowers. These camps, and I've seen the Uyghurs. I've heard from people who escaped these detention camps and were able to flee China to tell their story. Now, it is tragic, it is traumatic, and everything else. These forced camps, folks, build things like solar panels. Remember when the iPhone first came out? This is years ago, so the mid 2000s, so to speak. And we were hearing stories about how people in China were committing suicide at these factories because they lived and worked inside these factories. That's why I dislike all of our ivory tower people, because they see these systems and think they are great. But did you not know that the old iPhone factories used to have suicide nets on the outside of their buildings to prevent people from jumping off the building to die, because they were paid so little, worked so hard to make you an iPhone that we all craved back in the day. And I will be honest, I never wanted an iPhone just because of that. I mean, I do have an iPad. I'm sort of a hypocrite now, but at the same token, I would have never had an iPad if I never won an iPad at a union convention when I was a steelworker member. Still am a steelworker, technically, because I'm still recovering from my illness and everything else. But anyways, Michael Ma, folks, this is just nuts. The way he tried to criticize and shut down this lady on her comments on the forced labor camp and whether he is aware of it or not. The fact that he is scrubbing his social media accounts, it's so far that I've seen it is X. He has kind of wiped it right out. It is shocking because the people coming after him for those comments, sending him videos of the forced Uyghur camps and other labor camps that are in China. China is a big, huge country. It has many provinces, and each province is kind of like the Canadian provinces. They all run a little different, and they all have various levels of corruption and everything else, and all that. It is not a very nice place to be in these forced labor camps or these Uyghur camps. It is not the shoreline of China, which is almost looking modern and everything else, because they rapidly expanded their culture once Western society started investing in China. Yes, folks, they are investing in China. And I'm going to take off my glasses and I'm going to put on my sunglasses. Why? Because sometimes I don't like how I look. Bell's palsy, it's okay. Anyways, the glasses are on and I am fine with that. What I want to say is China and all their problems and all their glories that they also have. They have many, many achievements since they've had a rapid rise in industrialization to satisfy North Americans' craving for consumer products, right? Because we in the West are partially to blame for the stuff that is going on over there. If we didn't have such a high consumer demand, we probably wouldn't have these labor camps, or worse, we would not know of them, and these people would be silently tortured, organ harvesting, and other things, folks. It is wild what's going on over there. I'm telling you, they have a system set up where if somebody who is rich enough in China needs a new organ, they're literally matched up with a prisoner. Once they find a prisoner that has the same like blood type and a few other things that are to make sure that the organ harvesting can go ahead, that person is executed in the prison. I am not sure of the crime that this person committed. It could be jaywalking, it could be murder, it could be who knows. The point is the prisoner's life is ended before he has a chance to, why does he need to die? Right? He's being killed to satisfy a richer person in life, so to speak, to get an organ. That's just like in Canada, folks. A lot of these made things that we have going on, and I hate bringing up that word because YouTube may suppress my video, and I'm trying to grow, and I don't want to talk about these subjects too much, but they bother me, just like all the people that are going to be in MAID. I mean, they're now lying on the death certificate, so to speak, by their own policy. Our government and the health department basically are saying that we will not list the MAID as the cause of death. Other than the disease, we will not mention anything about MAID when the person is gone. There's already 100,000 documented deaths, folks. We kill more people in Canada in a year than the Americans have for gun violence in a year. Also, sad to say, today, a person who is blind basically suffers from, I guess, hallucinations from glaucoma. I've never heard of that. I don't know exactly the whole details of that, but he has health issues, diabetes, and a couple other things. He is being mated today. There's got to be some way to save people from these curable diseases other than to give them the gift of choosing when to end their life, and they choose it, and it's sad. We could be making people's lives better. Isn't that what society, as a growth of human spirit and endeavor and everything else, is that we try and rise? You know what I mean? Why is it the fact that somebody like Dana White's going to pay for the girl from Tumbler Ridge surgery if she can make it to California? Why is the likes of Mark Cuban helping to pay for an American child to receive some kind of help down in the States when their own insurance companies are denying the family the right to take their child to another facility, but they need special transportation and the insurance company is denying it. And yet another billionaire, Mark Cuban, feels for the family and offers a private jet and support and finances to help that family have that child recover. As one thing, as I was younger, and I will say I'm still an old school NDP person in my life, is that we should be helping people that need help. I don't mean we need to have a drug consumption site for somebody that needs to do the drugs because they're addicted and we just constantly feed them the drugs. I'd rather see a system where we help them get off the drugs, that is crushing their lives. It's not compassionate care to continue somebody to give them drugs while they sell the drugs to the unsuspecting kids who are, oh, we got to try this because our government is allowing it. Yes, folks, our Canadian government, our BC government allows youth to actually go get these drugs for themselves without parental consent, as if any parent would want their kid to be taking hydromorphine or whatever synthetic drugs that the government of Canada is supposedly giving these people to try and make them live a better life when we should be trying to help them. I have recently saw videos from Drew Coover. Shout out to Drew Coover. If you don't know who Drew Coover is, please write down the name Drew and Coover, like Vancouver, but Drew Coover. And type him in YouTube, and you will find videos of him showing off various things, whether it's the Tumbler Ridge incident or, what's going on at downtown East Side. Same with Cat Canada, spelled with the K. She's a lovely Russian woman who's been in Canada for many, many years, and she is Canadian, proud to be Canadian, but she also has Russian heritage. She has also exposed these things at the downtown East Side. I know I'm going away from the Michael Moss thing, but I think you kind of got my Michael Moss stuff. And like I said in my introduction, if you look in YouTube, I'm doing a rant today. I'm not exactly sure where I'm all going to go with this, other than I want to talk. And it bugs me that as a society, we are not improving. I am 54 years old, and when I was in school, and this is in the early 80s, teachers were saying that we're going to have a shorter work week. Technology is going to improve our lives so much that we are going to have a lot of free time to pursue hobbies and interests, and life is going to get better. Heck, just like the old movie Back to the Future. Remember that movie? Well, this year is 2026, I believe, and if the movie from back then says the future of 2026, where's our hovercraft skateboards? I would really like one of those. But we don't have that yet. Instead, what do we have? We have Subway selling sandwiches that have a warning label that says, don't eat the wrapper. That is how good society has become. Other things that I can complain about, seriously, we should be evolving into much more betterness, by betterness, and it's not a word, betterness, but why not use it as a word? We should be improving things to the point that why can't we all enjoy good health? And I mean healthcare. It's still people have to take care of themselves, and we should have it in a timely fashion. Wait times in Canada have tripled. Heck, I was supposed to get an ultrasound done on me, and it never, ever happened. I just somehow fell out of the system for my shoulder because my shoulder was really bothering me. And the doctor who was helping me, Dr. Reddy, a shout out to that fine, fine doctor out of Prince George. He just said, well, we won't worry about the ultrasound. I will try and find where we can needle you basically, and we will install some sugar water to relieve you of your aches and pains. Also on the note, you may hear a slight buzzing sound. That is a massage machine on the bottom of my hips, basically lower back. I am a hurting unit at the moment. I don't get it, even though MRIs and everything else says your hips are fine. There's nothing wrong with them. But God Almighty, they're hurting like heck today. Yes, and why can't we help me get a little bit better health care to find out what the frick is kind of going on? You know what I mean? This is sad as a state of our country where we are not getting better. It's getting worse. But who is getting better? Our political class, who also is getting better. All the NGOs that are siphoning money off of us. There is a fellow coming up from the Americans who decided he's going to come up and check Canada for the fraud and waste and abuse. This guy, Nick Shirley is his name, and I recommend everybody, and I know I don't like to show you things, but I'm going to tell you names. Nick, Nick, Shirley, Shirley. Type it in YouTube, type it in any of your social medias, and you might see the young man, 20-ish years old, 23, I believe, a virgin still, doesn't drink doesn't do drugs. He says, I am uncorruptible. He exposed a Somalian daycare fraud with another old fellow whose name has escaped me at the moment, but he's been doing it himself for a very long time. It's eye-opening to see the amount of money that is being wasted and abused. In fact, it's so bad in Minnesota that a person who was charged with basically fraud and a judge overturned a jury's decision on them being guilty. Corruption, anyone? Wow. Why do you think Tim Walz was selected as the vice president for Kamala Harris? It's because the whole Somalia fraud thing, to really roundabout sum it up for you in a way, helped funnel money into the campaign so that the Kamala Harris campaign, like, wow, this is a lot of money. We can use Tim Walz. Where's Tim Walz now? He's resigning because of all the corruption within his state. It's not just the daycare, it's autism center. Sorry about that. But autism, the spectrum disorder thing, with many, many people being affected by it. There's also the senior citizen. There's also the hospice care. Well, Nick Shirley has also went to California, and I watched a video in an old, you're going to have to imagine it. I think everybody's been in an old motel where it's like a U-shaped building, basically, with all the rooms, right? Lobby building and all that in the front, but it's a U-shape. Everybody parks in the middle, so to speak. Every car in the parking lot was a Mercedes, was a BMW, was a Lexus, high-end luxury car. Not really a sports car in there that I saw, but high-end luxury cars. Each place that was a room was a hospice care center. An old motel, used as a hospice center. And each room is basically an office for the hospice center. But no hospice care. Did you get that? Bilking the system. Now let's look into Canada, because Nick Shirley's coming into Canada. We have the government GG contractors, the Arrive scam. We've been begging for the money to be returned because it's obviously fraudulent what they did to create an app for Arrive Can. I like to say scam because it is a scam. Because they had a chateau and they had a building in the Virgin Islands on a third floor of a two-story building. You heard that correctly. The third floor of a two-story building as an address for one of the companies, basically. Now, remember, I'm just a dude in a housecoat. Please read, folks. Do a lot of your own research. But open your eyes. The amount of corruption is amazing. Just in fact, let's talk about another thing that because of corruption and stuff like that in Canada. Lions Electrical, I believe is the name. They were supposed to make buses. They went bankrupt. Now, in the United States, it just got brought up this week that the EPA is disappointed that they gave a bunch of money to a Canadian company and $160 million. School boards from the United States, just like in Canada, bought buses from this defunct company. Money, our taxpayer money, American taxpayer money, gone. Bankrupt. Where did the money go? In the millions, in the billions. EV industry, the green tech, net zero. We are supposed to make a world a better place. It's nothing but a scam. Just like I heard that there's people down in the States who had giant windmills built in their state. Not once did those planes turn, ever. Not once. Millions of dollars wasted. Why? Where did it go? And now they got to blow up these buildings, these windmills, and be done with it. Because they're not using them. But where did the money go? Just like in Canada, where is the money going? Why is Mark Carney making another bank for the military? Why is there a bank for this and a bank for that within the government? It's just another way to scam money and take away from the taxpayers. And later, and I hope to catch it, there's a fellow coming out with how our Canadian government, before Mark Carney became Prime Minister, and took our pension money to be used in general revenue, basically, to help fund the government. It used to be untouchable, but the likes of Chrystia Freeland, Justin Trudeau, Mark Carney's kind of involved, and all the other people that were finance ministers or ministers or whatever, they made rule changes to allow for this to happen. Why do you think that the public um, budget's office, the PBO, the person who just was on a 6-month short-term thing to fill in, said, oh my God, if we don't watch how we're doing our money, we're going to be broke in 18 months. And I'm going to say we got about 13 months left to go before we're officially broke. I think it's July 2027. And he is sending alarm bells because you can't do what you're doing with what Mark Carney is doing with the budget. They quietly rescinded his job offer, basically. They don't want him back. Who do they want back? Oh, my goodness. A lady who was involved with the banks and FinTrack, that is a friend of Mark Carney's, and who basically is also, I believe, in a bit of doo-doo with the Toronto Dominion Bank. If I remember correctly, the Toronto Dominion Bank was caught money laundering for the cartels, and she is somehow tied into that. Same with Mark Carney. Mark Carney has a friend who worked in that bank. And somehow, yes, I know it's strange and don't want to make causation versus correlation, but too many people are basically taking our money and abusing it and self-enriching themselves. And if you haven't noticed the smirks of Carney, I mean, he is playing us, folks. He doesn't give a shit about Canada. Like making a bragging statement that we have more icebreakers than the United States. Well, have you seen the coastline of Canada versus the coastline of the United States? Now, forgive me, but Alaska is just one state, and you know what? They have their own little thing up there. They have one icebreaker. Yeah, that's true. We have 40 something. Yay, whoopee doo. But we do need them. But to brag that we have that more than the Americans, like what are we going to do? Push all the ice from the Antarctic and the Arctic and try and shove it onto American soil to win a war? No. I mean, it's nice that we have that many, but how about some frigates? How about some cruisers? How about some more modern airplanes? How about some good equipment for our military? But 43 icebreakers. And you know what? We just made the UN, I'm sorry, not UN, the NATO target apparently for 2% of our GDP. Guess how we did that, folks? We took the Coast Guard from the Department of Fisheries and added it into the military department, the Department of Defense. That's a sleight of hand, so to speak. They didn't increase anything. They just took an expense from one of our industries or one of our government agencies and just reversed it and put it in another spot. That's all they did. Sleight of hand card tricks. That's all they did. And somehow now we make the target, right? But why can't the military people have better stuff? Why can't they be able to feed their families and all that, struggling to go to the food bank? I would hate to be in the military, especially brand new, so to speak, because you're going to struggle for years and years. And if you're white, well, you're going to have a hard time in the military because as soon as you fart, that's a right-wing conspiracy and you're tagged as a white supremacist. It is that idiotic and retarded. Yes, folks, it is. It's just like how our media keeps saying white supremacy is a problem in Canada. I don't see it anywhere. I don't see anybody marching around and, being completely belligerent. But what I do see is a group of people that have moved here who don't care for our norms, our way of life, our, intrinsic parts of society, like we don't shit out in the public. There's plenty of places to go. I don't want to bring that up. I hate it. But again, I see a video of a person who's doing a cab service in Toronto, and instead of going to a gas station, just goes right in a residential street like it's, I hate to use the word, India. because that's where there's the most open defecation, or San Francisco. We can pick on San Francisco too. But yeah, you're coming to this wonderful, beautiful country. It's like I'm just hearing, this is out of England, but it's going to come into Canada too, because a certain segment of society is asking that the police stop using dogs as a law enforcement thing. Why? Because they don't consider dogs clean and blah, 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 and they're harem, so to speak. I mean, I am talking out of my ass. I am not an expert on everything, but it bothers me that a group of people who move to a society that doesn't have their values insist on them to change their ways, the country, instead of them trying to adapt or saying, maybe this country is not for us, let's move elsewhere. Right? It's just like in Canada, we have so much changes, so much, bending over backward to accommodate people. And what did we end up? We ended up with nothing but a bunch of areas in our country, mainly in the urban centers, pockets of groups of people that are all very similar. And it's tribalism, and it's getting worse. Brampton, Ontario, I really hate to put it this way, has become a Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, all those people, and Middle Eastern in a way, are in that area, and crime is through the roof. It wasn't always that way before. There is a common denominator, and that is immigration. And we have way too much of it now that are allowing people to come into our country with the push of a button. I listened to a parliamentary thing today where they said we can't keep track of the people that we have here. We have over 30,000 or so, I guess, that are overextending their stay. And they said we have no way of finding them, but we are paying them. If you have no way of finding them, why are you paying them? Cut off their funding, because what are they going to do? Either go back home, or they're going to go to the government office and say, oh, but where's my money? I'm supposed to have some money, right? They're going to try and do that. So why are you sitting there not cutting off their funding? Because even if you cut their funding and it's a boo-boo, you can correct it because the gentleman came there. Right? But if they're not supposed to be here, and my tax dollars and your tax dollars are being given to these people, while decent people who have eye problems, glaucomas that cause hallucinations, are offered death, but we're giving non-citizens the right to be here, and we pay them to be here, but we deny the people that lived here all their lives a proper care. I mean, I could go on about other horror stories I've made, like the fact that doctors are telling patients they're a burden. No, my goodness, that is not even the Hippocratical Oath, right? I mean, my goodness, how can you even say that? That is horrible. And I know. Yes, folks, I am almost at the 27-minute mark. I really wanted to talk a bit more about Michael Maher and all that. Got sidetracked with the main thing because that really bothers me. And it should bother you too. But the point I will also like to say is, before I go, is please contact your senator about Bill C9 and your religious freedoms. I know my mom is a Christian woman. I know my dad is a Christian man, and I know that they believe in the Bible, and yet now the government is going to take parts of our Bible and claim it's hate speech. Same with the Quran, same with the Buddha. They can do it to all the religions now if the Senate passes this. All you have to honestly do, folks, is contact your senator. You can look them up in the phone book. You can look them up online. You can write a letter. You can send an email. Do whatever, but it is your religious freedoms, including my show, here at stake. I will be contacting my BC senator and objecting heavily to Bill C9. And I think you should too. Now, I'm hopefully going to have more shows. I know I did 2 in a row, 2 days in a row. I know the times are about similar, but hopefully down the road, I am going to get up a lot earlier to make a show, because most of the population that is on social media and wanting to grow a show are in the East, so to speak. And I need to reach those people and to help grow, which means I need to be doing my show earlier. And remember, folks, like I said earlier in the show, this is going to flip for anybody you are missing in your life, inspiration in your life, and all that today. And I'm going to keep it going for the young girl in Spain. I'm not going to go into much more detail of things that I found, other than I truly hate the Spanish government and the people there, the ivory tower people. Also, visit an SPCA, folks, at least once in your life. If you have not been to an SPCA, please go. You don't have to adopt. You can leave a donation, but go see the good that these people do. Other than that, positive vibes, take care, and hope to see you soon. Thank you very much.